My name is Leslie Wingo. I am the face of affirmative action. Like many of us from different backgrounds, I bounce between communities so much I don't even think about it. Let me give you a couple of examples. When I was younger, there was a song called Walk This Way by Aerosmith featuring Run DMC. That was my introduction into hip hop. It's a true story. Christmas time, my family, we love Christmas time. I think it's mostly because we like to eat, but our intention is to celebrate over 300 years of our ancestors through food. So our dinners include, but are not limited to, tamales, succotash, mac and cheese, and y'all, it has a half a pound of cheese in it. It's delicious. Sweet potato pie, and of course, Christmas would not be Christmas in my house without canned cranberry sauce. And then going back to what I was saying earlier, when my husband and I decided to get married, we had these mandates of what we wanted. You know, what do you want? No, what do you want? So it just broke down into, I wanted mariachi, so we had mariachis. My husband wanted to jump the broom. He's Mexican-American, so that's natural. So natural, you know, we did both, no big deal. And when Christopher and I are together, my favorite thing to do is to watch people, study human behavior. It's a normal thing. Because it's interesting when he and I are together and we're at the center of my research, it's wild to watch what people do and say to us. And so one of the things they're trying to figure out is what we are and where we come from, which is fine. It's normal. And usually based on my unscientific, very biased research of one, that question usually is, where did you go to high school? And why the question is so simple, the answer is very loaded. So think about this for a couple of seconds. My one answer gives you a lot of insight into who I am, where I'm from, obviously, where I went to high school, but it also gives you some insight into my childhood, my quality of my education, and my socioeconomic status. That one answer gives you a lot of information about me and allows you to create stories about me, put labels on me, and this is not normal, this is simply human. My one answer is so completely loaded. Being a Black female CEO, I'm often asked a lot of questions, but usually there's strange questions that are presented to me like, why are you so articulate? Well, you are so well-spoken. And to that I usually respond, well, I hope so, I went to college. And then every once in a while there's a follow-up statement that goes something like this. And it's a disclaimer, but you don't sound Black. And to that I respond, what does Black sound like? That conversation right there, I find that conversation to be mostly annoying because it's based on stereotypes, it's based on assumptions, and that is not who I am. And these are the things people are willing to say to me out loud. I can only imagine what they're thinking about when they see me based on my race and my gender. The other thing that comes to mind is I was shopping I like to shop. And I was at a big box store, and it was the old school version of you got your groceries, and that somebody had to actually ring you up to get you out the door. So I paid for all my groceries and my stuff, and as I moved through the cashier line on my way to the exit, I was pulled over by a security guard who asked to see my receipt. I was so angry, I could just feel my neck turning red. And I thought to myself, what in the hell did I do to deserve that? And what I realized, and by realized, I mean many years later, is that stereotyping, that pulling people out of line, that's something that is taught based on a lot of assumptions. From my view, I see a lot of women in different organizations and different points of life where I intersect, but I see very few of us in the C-suite, in places of power and executive boardrooms. And one morning I was having coffee with a friend of mine as she was about to launch her new business. And she said, her name is Anna, she said, and I'm gonna paraphrase a little bit. She said, there are more men named John as Fortune 500 CEOs than there are women. And I probably had the, what? Look on my face, because I couldn't believe that number was in fact a reality. So much later, I went home and I did some research, not because I didn't believe Anna, she's listening, I did believe you. It's just that I was surprised that this number could be so low. And what I found was a study done by McKinsey in 2017, and according to their research, it's going to take over 100 years for there to be parity in the C-suite, 100. That is a century. That is not okay with me, and that should not be okay with you. And for the sake of this conversation, when we look at gender in the United States alone, 51% of the population is women. By ignoring and excluding this part of the population, we're missing half of the ideas, half of the knowledge, half of the solution to problems. So as I looked at all these different intersection points in my life, I started thinking, does this diversity and inclusion thing really make sense? And I asked anybody who would listen to me. So my friend Rose responded with, lack of diversity and inclusion means lack of ideas and innovation. I truly believe that our next geniuses are in the forgotten parts of the inner city or out there in the very rural parts of the country, which is interesting to me. Now, these are my stories. I'm not alone, nor am I unique. And I've talked to a lot of people from different backgrounds with different experiences, and they're the only ones in their organizations, they're the only ones in their neighborhoods, they're the only ones in the places that they work. And here's what's also interesting to me, why the details change, our stories remain the same. Now, I often wonder what could be possible if we brought all of these other only ones to the table. And I looked back and I did some research on World War I and World War II, and I wonder if the outcome of those wars would have been different if we didn't have the Code Talkers, a group of 33 Native American tribes that came together and created a code so secret that it could not be broken by the enemy. I also wonder if NASA, would have had a different legacy if it weren't for Katherine Johnson and the other hidden figures during the 1960 space race. Thank you. Oh, I'll take it. I might get mad in a minute, so y'all keep clapping. But here's the thing. People don't like to be uncomfortable. They just don't. And here's what I know. People hate two things: change and the way things are. And if we want to have a real conversation about how to create change in this environment through diversity and inclusion, we're gonna have to have that talk. That talk about race, class, and sexism. It's the elephant in the room. It's that thing that nobody wants to talk about, of course, until there's a problem. But before we can have that talk with somebody else, we have to have an honest conversation with ourselves. You know that conversation where you talk to yourself? I do it all the time. It's a debate between me, myself, and I. It's usually in the car. So either people think I'm crazy or I'm talking on the phone, whatever works. But we have to be able to ask ourselves individually, am I willing to have a conversation with a human for understanding and not defend my point of view? If the answer is yes, then there's two key things that we need to be willing to give up. We need to be willing to give up power, and we also have to be willing to give up control. And you may be saying to yourself, because this is what I would say to myself, is, well, that sounds great, but who in the world am I gonna have that conversation with, and how am I gonna have that conversation? And I'm gonna get to that in a minute. By having this courageous conversation, we also need to realize it's going to be uncomfortable, it's gonna be weird, it's gonna be awkward, and that's okay. That's completely okay. It's gonna be telling our brains to literally do something that it doesn't want to do, and that is to be very, very uncomfortable. It's like crossing your arms in a different way. So everybody cross your arms. Now cross them the other way. It may feel a little awkward, it may feel strange. For some of you, it might be uncomfortable, but it's not impossible. It's not impossible. And so when we have these conversations, just know that this might be how you feel. And the way we see the world, how we see the world, is based on our beliefs and our experiences. And as Americans, we are all entitled to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, which is great in theory until my point of view differs from yours, and vice versa. So take this into consideration. You have two men who are both Christian, who are both for life, who both played football, and both at some point who kneeled on a football field. Now, the first guy believes that life starts at conception, and he is seen as a hero. The other guy believes that everybody should be treated equally and protests against racial injustice. Now, one is seen in a positive light, the other is not. Now, I know I may have just made some of y'all mad because y'all didn't clap, but here's what's to get here. We may never agree, and that is okay. The critical point is this: the difference is simply a point of view. The difference is simply how you view the world and based on your experiences and your beliefs. Now, by being me, I, like many of you, are in the middle of a lot of these interesting conversations, and like me, like many of you, I am an only one. I'm the only one in my neighborhood. I'm the only one in a lot of the events I attend. I'm the only one in many of the organizations I'm in. But here's the beauty of the only ones. We don't fit in anywhere. We fit in everywhere. It's gonna take more than one box to define, label, and understand us. It's gonna take more than one box. We are a global tribe, we are a community, and we are change makers. It's through our experiences and our beliefs where we learn how to hustle, survive, and see the world from many different perspectives. As my grandfather, Arthur Hart, would say, you can't come from where you've never been. So if we can come together and have debates over Taco Tuesday, because I've seen the posts on Facebook, chicken and waffles, and have the biggest debates over who has the best cocktail, then certainly we can come together to understand one another. So I owe you a couple of answers to things that I brought up in our conversation today. The first question is, where did you go to high school? Would you like to know where I went to high school? I'm a proud graduate of Eastwood High School, located right here in El Paso, Texas. The second set of questions I posed was, how do you have that talk and who do you have that talk with? And I suggest and actually encourage each of you to reach out to somebody who you don't know, who is nothing like you, face to face, in person, and have that conversation. And that doesn't mean putting it on social media for debate, but meet in person and have a really honest conversation for understanding. I am the face of affirmative action, and you can be too. Thank you.